Hi guys, and welcome to part 2 of what is, for my take, the best tactic on Football Manager 2018, certainly that I've found so far. All the information downloading the tactic and so on and so forth is down below in the description, as well as a link to the part 1 video. So what we're going to discuss today, I never actually originally intended making this a two-parter, but a couple of people have asked about the specific player instructions and if I could show those off. So I'm going to do that today. This will be part 2 on player instructions. So as you can see here, we've got our Rangers team. I'm just going to run through the instructions and what these guys have been instructed to do. So, as I said in the last video as well, I didn't create this tactic. As I said, all credit goes to the original creator, and the link down below to the thread where I did discover this tactic. So, without further ado, let's dive right in here. The goalkeeper has the instructions to play fewer risky passes, distribute the ball to the centre backs, and to roll it out. So he just keeps it simple, gets it out to one of the back three. He usually chooses one of the wide defenders there, so if it goes out to, for instance here, Wallace, and then he would usually play it forward to Mitchell. Mitchell can go over the top there to Mabudi in behind the defenders, or the other side with Fernandez, Young and Gallagher. It tends to go that way quite a bit. Sometimes they'll bowl it out and just pass it around, it can come into the midfield and so forth. But that's the instructions goalkeeper wise, just to keep it simple and bowl the ball out. The centre backs here, the right sided centre back has the instructions to tackle harder, mark tighter and pass shorter. So again, generally speaking, they'll cycle the ball around the back three here, or they'll play it out usually to their full back, and as I say, occasionally to the central midfielders. Mark tighter and tackle harder, of course, defensively. I think they all have that. Pass it shorter, tackle harder. Right, so the central of the three does not have the mark tighter instruction. He instead has tackle harder, pass shorter, and close down much more. So he's got more license to go towards the ball and try and press it, whereas the other two, not so much. They need to mark and pick up strikers and so forth. And of course he's going to have, mark tighter, shorter, and tackle harder. The same, basically mirroring the other side. So the fullbacks, fullback here has shoot less often, close down more, tackle harder, mark tighter, more risky passes, which, as I say, the fullbacks tend to dink it over the top to these strikers getting in behind, sit narrower, cut inside with ball, and they've also got get further forward there as well. So what they tend to do, they go on the overlap quite a lot, but they also come infield. That's why they've got cut inside with the ball there. Allows them to make up for the fact that we don't have that many in midfield. So you can see I've only got two there in midfield, but these fullbacks cutting inside and sitting narrower, of course, does tend to compensate for the lack of midfielders in there. Occasionally it can get caught on the counter with the ball going over the top to a winger. Occasionally that can happen, but generally speaking it goes pretty well. And of course on the other side it's just mirrored for the other wing back there. So the supporting central midfielder, and that's the roles by the way, central midfielder support and central midfielder attack. So for the supporting central midfielder, he has shoot less often, dribble less, tackle harder, mark tighter, pass shorter, and more risky passes. So again, same kind of idea, don't dribble it, just ping the ball off, pass it quickly. Generally speaking, he's more of a, try to think of the appropriate player, in Celtic terms he'd be like a Neil Lennon. I mean, he's not really going to do anything all that drastic, but he can win the ball back, break up play in the opposition, and then just pass the ball to a more creative player. So that's kind of his role there. He does have more risky passes on, just to give him the freedom in case he does see a run maybe from one of the forwards or a switch. We do tend to switch it quite a lot. So for example, we've got Burjonas here. He could be sitting relatively wide there. Maybe Mitchell's forward here and he's got the ball. Burjonas has come out to support him there. He can generally pick the ball up here, and because of that more risky passes, if Young is going on the overlap or even Gallagher's peeled wide, Burjonas can ping it all the way across to try and switch the play. So more risky passes certainly gives him the freedom to do that. So Paez here, who's our attacking central midfielder, has shoot less often, dribble more, tackle harder, mark tighter, and more risky passes. Again, pretty much the same kind of idea. He doesn't have, what one does he not have? Tackle harder, mark tighter. Is it pass it shorter? Yeah, he doesn't have pass it shorter. And although he has shoot less often there, he still does hammer a fair few goals in. So, for example, Rodrigo Fassi will play that role, and he has 5 goals from that position. So, as I say, shoot less often doesn't mean shoot never, so they do still pop up with some goals every now and then, and get further forward obviously pushes them into a position where they can do that. So that's the 2 midfielders, possibly the most important players actually in this formation to get right in there. Then up top, this right-sided striker has shoot more often, tackle harder, mark tighter, and more risky passes. The man down the middle has shoot more often, tackle harder. That is it. He does not have mark tighter or risky passes. He just has shoot more often and tackle harder. And they all have move into channels, which is sort of because they have that role, because they have the advanced forward attack role, they all have that. But the central striker obviously won't tend to do that because they don't double up positions. So you won't get Mabudi drifting out left and then Davidson following him out left. Davidson will tend to stay central because Mabudi and Gallagher have the position wide of him. So that works really well in that sense. And again, Mabudi's is just mirrored there with Gallagher. So that's really it on the player instructions. Not a lot more to say. A couple of people, as I said, wanted to know what the specific instructions were on this one. It produces a hell of a lot of goals, like crazy. Let's actually, just to show you, for example, this is the fixtures from our current Rangers series, which we've got going on in the channel. Subscribe, by the way, cheap plug. And just have a wee look at the results. We beat Brøndby 6-0. And then 3-0. We beat Dynamo Kiev 6-1. We beat Ayr 6-1. Beat Dynamo Kiev 1-0, but we're playing youngsters there. Beat Falkirk 6-2. Beat Spartak 6-1. 7-1 over Dundee. 1-0 over Spartak, again playing youngsters. 6-1 over Hearts, and we'll ignore the 3-2 loss to Celtic. 5-0 away in St Petersburg over Zenit. 5-0 over Hamilton. 4-1 over Ross County. A ridiculous 9-0 over St Johnstone. 6-0 over Valencia. I mean, ludicrous amount of goals this has produced. If we look at the table actually at the minute, we've played 8 games and we've scored 45 goals. So it is an absolutely insane tactic in terms of goals. And even if you think that's leaving us too leaky at the back, we've conceded 10 in 8. So a little over 1 per game. It's not as if we're shipping the goals at the other end either. So it definitely works. It's a good tactic. It's getting us results against teams that are probably better than us, like Zenit and Valencia, of course. And we're not just sneaking those results, we are hammering them. So as I say, for my money, this is the best tactic I've got in Football Manager. Check 2018 anyway. Check the description down below for all the details. You can download there. Check out part 1 as well for a sort of general overview of the tactic. A couple more examples of it being used on other teams there as well. So like I think I run through Newcastle. I was using it with Newcastle in the first video. So just a couple of examples that it does work with other teams. I've used it so far. As I say, we're using it with Rangers at the moment. I used it with Newcastle. I've used it with Barcelona. I've used it with PSG. And I've used it with Intella in Italy, the Serie B side in Italy. And it has worked a treat for all of them thus far. If you are a weaker team, the one thing I'll point out, if you're a weaker team, it will be more equal in terms of the goals you ship. So for example, my first season when I was playing with Newcastle using this tactic, I was scoring lots of goals, but I was conceding a ton of goals as well. So like when I go to Old Trafford in season 1 as Newcastle, I was getting beat like 6-2 and things like that. So it does ship goals, but honestly, I discussed this in part 1 as well. I won the quad with Newcastle using this tactic in season 3. So it's not as if I had a ridiculously revamped team. I mean, we had some good players, don't get me wrong. We had I bought Anthony Martial, I believe, when he was going away from Newcastle. So we did have a good team, don't get me wrong. But in season 3, I managed to win the Premier League, FA Cup, League Cup, and Champions League all in that one season. So it is a crazy good tactic. But anyway, that's it, guys. I just wanted to post a wee video talking about the player instructions on this video. A couple of people have asked for it. I thought it would be useful to put this up as a sort of part 2 to the original tactics discussion video. So as I say, hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you have done, please drop it down below and leave a like on the video. If you want to follow this Rangers series where we're just battering teams left, right, of course you can, and centre, of course you can subscribe to the channel, which I'd be greatly appreciative of. We're up at that, I think we're at 263 subscribers at the time of recording, so we're marching towards 300 at the moment. Greatly appreciative of that. But mostly just thank you guys for watching. Hope that you find this helpful, and do let me know how you get on with this tactic, if it is working for you. And of course I'll see you next time.